I'm Captain Hoff, CEO of Founderspace, the leading global startup accelerator. I'm also author of the award-winning books, Make Elephants Fly, Surviving a Startup, and The Five Forces. Brain tech of the future. What lies in store for us in the next 10, 20, 30 years? Where is this technology going where we can actually connect the human brain to the internet? What does that mean for us as individuals? What does that mean for our society? And what does that mean for humanity as a whole? How will that change us? And what are the different ways in which brain-computer technology can impact our lives and actually change the fundamental nature of what it is to be human? Download information. What happens when we hook our brains up to the internet through high bandwidth, high speed connections directly to the internet with all the information our civilization has accumulated, uploaded into there? Every book that has ever been published, every film and movie and TV show that has ever been made, every bit of scientific research that we have ever discovered, it all is migrating to the internet. It will all exist in the cloud. What does this mean for us? Well, if we think in the future, not tomorrow, but a decade from now or 2 decades from now, when we have these advanced devices, we could literally download that information whenever we need it. We don't have to store information in our brains because our brains will literally use the cloud, the internet, as an extension of themselves, as extra storage. So right now, we may go to school, and spend 12 years to graduate high school, another 4 years to graduate college, and then if you go on to get a doctorate, 4 more years. That's a big portion of our life. But what if in school, if you wanted to learn a foreign language, you could literally download it, download the language. And as you go about your day, it could literally seep into your brain. The language could be fed into your brain. Or you could download, everything you need to know about chemistry, everything you need to know about physics, all the great books that are out there, as if you had read them, but on a subconscious level. Remember, the human brain, 90% of the activity, 90% of the information we're absorbing is subconscious. It's not conscious. So there could be a way where we learn to actually write this information into our brain. So then when we need it, it's like we read that book, like we read that textbook. We know everything in it. We know the whole history of the human race, even though we haven't spent a day in a classroom. Or maybe that isn't even necessary. Maybe we don't need to store it in our brains. After all, our brains are kind of crude. They're 100,000 years we've had the same brains, They aren't that evolved. We still forget stuff. It's hard to store stuff. It's hard to retrieve stuff. Our brains are slow. What if that information was left in the cloud? We need to know a fact about history. Boom, because the connection is so instantaneous, the cloud is an extension of our mind, of all the knowledge out there, and we just pull down what we need. If we walk past the Golden Gate Bridge, suddenly we start to know all the facts we are curious about. Oh, when was this bridge built? Oh, how many people died building the bridge? Oh, you get that information. Oh, how long is the bridge? That information comes to you. On the job, the same thing. You need to know something about a report. Well, it doesn't have to be told to you in advance. It could be retrieved in real time from the cloud, from this mind net that we create. So all of us can be downloading information from the net to our minds with advanced brain-computer interfaces. And actually, at the same time, we could be uploading. So all of our experiences, everything, every human being that is connected to this mind net is learning can be uploaded. Scientists all around the world, the research that they're doing in real time can be uploaded to the internet and shared instantaneously across every brain in the world. And not just human brains. Think about it. We're going to have machines hooked up to this internet. We're going to have robots out there learning things. Robots on Mars, robots on Venus, robots maybe beyond our solar system. and robots all around the planet and under the sea, gathering information, figuring things out, doing tasks, advanced AIs controlling these robots. Simultaneously, all of these machines would be uploading information, and they would have sensors that are far more sensitive than our eyes, that are far more sensitive than our ears, that can interpret ultraviolet light and all these other sources that we as human beings can't even directly access through our bodies. But this data, this information, these experiences are all being uploaded into the cloud and shared. So the real question is, when we are able to download information and upload information directly to our minds, and our minds are all connected to this vast internet, what does that mean for humanity? Where are we going? What are we becoming? Also, who will have access to this information? What information is private? Maybe I don't want all the information on my brain uploaded. How do I restrict that? What does that mean? And maybe some scientist doesn't want their work, or some company doesn't want their company trade secrets uploaded to the internet. Do certain people and certain groups of people get to have information that others don't? What is fair? Like, will certain people in certain positions have access to far more computing power in the cloud, far more information in the cloud than other people, giving them a huge advantage in business and life and basically power to control our destinies? Do certain people, wealthy people, powerful political people, governments, are they allowed to have information common people aren't? What are the rules? What are the ethics? How do we structure a society like this? You know, many of these problems are present today, like even in our existing world. So we have to look at the world today, and then we have to imagine the world we want in the future. What will that world be like? How will human beings share and use information in a world of the future where all of our brains and all of our lives depend on being connected to this mind net? We have to ask these questions. We have to ask, what does it mean to be human? Like, would you even solve hard problems in your brain? Your brain's a very primitive device. Why not use an AI out there to solve all your hard problems? Your boss asks you questions, some technical question that you don't know the answer to, boom, tap an AI in the cloud, have it figure it out, give you an answer, you spew it out. Do we become dummies? Just like these shells that rely on minds, on processing power that's beyond us? Who are we as human beings? What is the boundary that separates us from this mind net? And where do we draw the line? We have to think about this because this technology is coming. It's in the laboratories. It's filtering out into the population. We need to think about that. This is probably one of the most crucial junctures humanity will ever hit. And the decisions we make today are going to have profound implications for the future of all of us. And this is just the beginning. What I'm talking about now, how we interface with information and with processing power directly from our brains and the internet, is just the tip of the iceberg. Share memories with advanced brain-computer interfaces. There is no reason we can't take our memories and potentially upload them into the cloud and store them forever. Now, most of us forget most of what we do during the day. It's hard to even remember our childhood. It's hard to think back. But what if, instead of going to a photo album or, watching old movies, videos that we took, what if we could simply access any point in our life and actually start to retrieve the memories that we had because they were taken from us, processed by some advanced AI, and instantaneously stored in the cloud for us forever? That would be pretty cool. Now, it could even be cooler because we could then download those at a later time in our life when maybe we're older, and they could be much richer than our actual memories. Our actual memories are distorted, they're fuzzy, over time they decay and they change. But these could potentially, and I'm in the realm of science fiction now, we're thinking about the possibilities. These could potentially be very accurate recordings of our biological and mental processes at that point in time. And if we fed them back into us, it could be like reliving that experience, reliving your first kiss, reliving your childhood. How would that be? What would that be like? It would be pretty amazing. You could be this old, decrepit person reliving your childhood as if you were a child. or reliving those really special moments in your life. There's other things you could do. What if instead of taking your memories, what if you access someone else's memories, like your parents' memories, like your grandparents' memories that were uploaded into this brain net, and you downloaded them into yourself, and you got to see what it was like to be them in that moment of time? Wouldn't that be freaky? Even with a person you love, it could be a relative, it could be your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. You could start to exchange memories. What would it be like to swap memories? Your memory for my memory. You could potentially actually feel not just the visual sensations, audio sensations, touch of the past. You could potentially feel their emotions. So not only could we upload and download visual information, but all of these things are emotions. They all could potentially be encoded in a digital form so that when they're downloaded into a new biological being, it replicates them in that being. Of course, we're way far away from that technology today, but it's interesting to think about. If I could download a feeling of happiness, of contentment, or if my spouse was upset, instead of, right now there's a wall between us. I can feel sorry for somebody when they are suffering, when they are feeling depressed, or when they have pain. But I can't actually feel their depression. I can't feel their pain. I can only feel a simulation of it that I create in my mind, but it's not theirs. But with brain-computer interfaces, if we are connected to them, I could start to download not just their memories, but their feelings. And they could share my feelings. What would it be like to have true love when people truly connect? You share your experience, I share my experience. And it could get freaky. Like you come home, you're out late, and your wife says, "Where were you? I want to know." And you're like, "Oh, I was just hanging out with the boys." Now your wife's jealous. She doesn't trust you. Let me see. Let me look into your brain. Show me what you did. Whoa. It could create a lot of complications that we don't have today. Like, a lot of people say, "I love you," but their meaning of love is different than somebody else's. If you connect with somebody's mind, you could potentially know not what they're telling you they feel, but what they actually feel. And could we artificially induce love, induce emotions, like create a more loving bond by merging our brains together? These are questions we don't know the answer to, and they're very strange. But we are on the cusp of this type of technology. Now, we're well away from what I'm talking about, but we're moving in that direction. And I predict someday these ideas, which are science fiction now, will become our reality, will change how we view ourselves. We literally will be connecting with other people's minds, their thoughts, their memories, their emotions, and exchanging these in real time throughout our life, through the internet, through brain-computer interfaces. Programmable dreams. Well, Freud would have a field day with this. In the future, with brain-computer interfaces, we will literally be able to record our dreams, record them, upload them into the cloud, and then whenever we wanted, we could access our dreams. We could relive our dreams. We could experience them. How freaky would that be? We could exchange dreams with other people. And even more than that, we could decide what type of dreams we wanted to have. Imagine if you're wearing a brain-computer interface to sleep, instead of getting a nightmare or one of those anxiety dreams where you're late, you're running late and everything's going wrong and you're all stressed out, you could actually potentially have an AI feed you the type of dream you want to dream. Maybe it's information. Maybe you're learning in your dream. Maybe it's marvelous experiences you're having in your dream that you could never have in real life. And where do dreams separate from our real life? Like, honestly, with brain-computer interfaces, do we need a virtual reality device? Do we need like a headset to kind of escape the real world and go into a virtual world? Or is that real world actually able to exist just in our mind? We know when we're sleeping, even the most fantastic things feel real. Like, you could fly, you could, break through walls, you could be a superhero. In your dreams, you could do things you could never do in normal life. So will the video games and the virtual reality experiences of the future not be created through some external device, but be created through brain-computer interfaces, where we actually, even when we're conscious, not asleep, we can create and enter these worlds. And just like our minds are capable of creating dreams, we create alternate realities for us that we exist in. And not only do we exist in them, but all our peers, other human beings, can come in and interact with us in this mental space. I don't know what you call it, this virtual mental space that we create using brain-computer interfaces that feels just as real as our lives. In other words, the Matrix, right? We could be sitting, lying in a bathtub, literally traveling and experiencing the whole universe in our minds. And it could all be programmed. There could be, we could start to create experiences for ourselves we could have never dreamed possible, connections for ourselves, ways to learn, ways to interact with other human beings and with AIs that are unimaginable today. That could be normal, routine in the future. Just like nobody, 100 years ago could imagine us walking around on social networks communicating all day. They just wouldn't understand what that is like. We may have that potential to create this technology, this technological existence, this mental existence, which is both wed to the physical world and totally divorced from the physical world. And you have to think about it. We may be living in a dream, like a programmable dream. Like some of it may be us walking through the physical world, but that physical world may be augmented with things that are in our head, but are indistinguishable from the physical world. Like we pick up an object, it may be a mental object, just like a virtual object, but it feels real. We feel it's real. And to those around us in this shared space, this shared illusion or delusion or fabrication, whatever you call it, they would see it and feel it too, just like we do. We would create these alternate shared realities, this merging of the minds, of technology, of our creativity, of our imagination, of our dreams, all within the sphere of our lives. And waking and sleeping wouldn't really be that different. Like we would literally be moving continuously through this experience where, like, when you're sleeping at night, you could be meeting other people in your dreams. Only it's not a dream when you meet them. You are actually really meeting other people in your dreams. It's not you imagining them. They are actually having that experience too. Like our dreams could be merging together. They could be selling game packs, like like you download a game today or a movie to play and watch. You could download a dream set, the exotic vacation dream, the erotic fantasy dream, the industrious learning dreams, the Harvard advanced physics dreams, whatever they are. And you could be downloading these reality packs in real life and experiencing them. So I am just pushing the limits. I'm trying to imagine, like, what could happen when we have advanced computer interfaces combined with AI, combined with almost unlimited processing power in the net and unlimited storage. What will our lives be like? BrainNet. What happens when we take human brains and in mass connect them together through the internet? What does this mean? So at Duke University, they did the experiment with the monkey, where they had 3 monkeys solving a complex problem together, even though each of the monkeys was only given partial information. And the monkeys did this, not consciously, but they shared information and computing power, problem-solving power at a subconscious level. Could this same dynamic hold true once we connect dozens, hundreds, thousands, or even millions of people into a brain net? With all of us absorbing information, with all this distributed processing power, what does it mean for our future? Will we become one supermind? A mind made up of all these individual minds, each of them processing pieces of information about our universe, pieces of information about our lives, each of them capable of computing and solving problems together. And then we combine that with all the processing power of our machines, of our computers, of our robots, with all the sensory input they are gathering, and wed it all together with a mesh of AIs coordinating, synthesizing, combining all this different information, all these different experiences, and coming up with solutions to problems that us collectively, all of us, humanity faces. This is synchronizing our minds together, means that we no longer will be individuals trying to solve a problem in our head and then communicate it to others. We will literally be extensions of one another. And in a synchronized world, a brain net with all of us communicating and working towards common goals, what is the human race capable of? My guess is that if it's done right, we would be capable of far more, exponentially more than we are today, than we are able to do today. Because if you look how we're connected today, through the internet, chat applications, video, all of these things, it's fairly crude. But when we have mind-to-mind connections, when all of our minds are able to, at multiple levels, conscious levels and unconscious levels, exchange information, collaborate, cooperate, that totally changes the dynamic. Imagine just being a simple example of being on a construction site with other workers. If all of you are connected to a brain net, all of you know kind of intuitively what the others are doing. You're aware of it on some level. You would be able to avoid accidents. You would be able to coordinate building materials. But this is just like one small example. If you extrapolate that to everything humans are doing around the globe, on this planet, and potentially even on other planets, what does that mean? What would humanity be? Will we be one giant distributed beast with an emergent consciousness that maybe that consciousness is higher above all the other consciousnesses? Like, think about it. Our brains have multiple processing centers, but there's no center that we have been able to identify that is the center of consciousness. Consciousness seems to be an emergent property of our entire brain functioning as it does at a certain high level. Well, if you take, millions, even billions of living brains and actually wire them together, would there be an emergent consciousness that comes up taking advantage of the processing power of all these individual brains? And then when you combine that with AIs and the processing power of advanced semiconductors and input from all these advanced sensors, what do you get? What is the end result? And where will that take us? You could imagine, and this is purely in the realm of speculation, purely in the realm of science fiction, but 100 years from now, even beyond that, could we be building a higher consciousness that is almost godlike in its powers? And that we would be a small part of that, each human being a little bit of it, like, an ant in an ant colony, a bee in a hive mentality, but taken to a whole nother level of abstraction, where that ultimate consciousness is able to perceive things and understand things about our universe that no individual could possibly do. Yet we would benefit from that understanding, because at some level, that consciousness would be ours. It would be shared, and it would be coordinating all of our activities. That is the potential, the end goal, let's say, in the future for brain-computer interfaces. This could be where this technology is taking us. When human beings are no longer individuals, but they are a part of a greater organism that we have artificially constructed, that takes all the advances in technology and combines them, the amount of power of this collective would dwarf anything any a single human being or even groups of human beings working in isolation could ever come close to. And we can't, as a human being today, I can't even begin to imagine society with those types of capabilities. But it's important to start thinking about this because although it's very crude right now, the state of brain-computer interfaces, they exist, but they're really, really primitive. We're on that path. We are going in this direction. And someday, I am sure, if the human race is around, that we will achieve this goal. Just like it was almost impossible for our prehistoric ancestors to imagine the world we live in today and the capabilities we have with these, computing devices and rocket ships taking us to Mars and electricity and all these things that just seem like magic. In the future, we can just begin to catch a glimpse of what our society and the human race will be like as we combine our mental capabilities and merge them with our machines. Live outside your body. When all of us have advanced brain-computer interfaces in the future, not tomorrow, but 10, 20, 30 years from now, what does that mean for our existence, how we live? Now imagine this. If I have an advanced brain-computer interface that connects my mind directly to the internet, not only is it connecting it to the internet, it's connecting it to everything else connected to that network, potentially. So, in the future, I could actually look through the eyes of another human being because what's the incoming visual images that they're capturing through their eyes are being uploaded to the internet. Why couldn't I access that feed and feed it into my brain? So, if I wanted to see through my wife's eyes, I could literally look through her eyes. We could potentially actually feel what another person is touching. They did the experiment with rats where they could actually map the whiskers of one rat that what one rat was feeling on its whiskers to another rat's brain. And the other rat interpreted the signals coming from that first rat as an extension of its own body. So our bodies could literally merge together. In essence, we could be living outside the restrictions of our body. Right now, we're trapped in these biological shells. But in the future, if we really connect with high bandwidth to an internet where all these other living beings are connected, we could experience the world through them. I could actually go out into the world and have all sorts of experiences I could never have in my normal life. So imagine I wanted to swim through the ocean like a dolphin. Like that was my dream. If a dolphin had a wireless brain-computer interface implanted in its brain and I could tap into that, suddenly I could start to feel the dolphin's body as my own. I could start to swim. I may even be able to control the dolphin as if it were my own and swim through the water, understanding what it was like to be another creature, a fish in the water, or a bird flying in the sky. These ideas seem crazy, but they're, with advanced brain-computer interfaces, there's no reason at some point in time we won't be able to experience these things. And it could be life-altering. You can imagine experiencing life outside your body, not just in other living beings, other biological beings, whether it's a friend of yours, a movie star, an animal. You could actually experience what it was like to be a robot. Literally, you connect your brain to the input from that robot, and you could start to see through the robot's eyes, feel through the robot's arms. You could control that robot. That robot could become a surrogate self, an extension of yourself. So all of us may actually have robot selves. And we might not just have robot selves on this planet. We might have robot selves on other planets. So we may not travel to Mars with our human body, which is very fragile. We may actually just connect to a robot on Mars. And assuming the connection was not delayed, we had some new form of quantum entanglement that could allow instantaneous connections between people on Earth and other planets, we could literally walk in the shoes of that robot, which could survive in very hostile and harsh environments without any problem. And robots have the potential to have sensors that can sense spectrums of light, can sense frequencies of sound, can sense chemicals and other things like smells that we could never sense, that are outside our limitations. The limitation is the Umwelt. That's what we live in, where our Umwelt is everything our five senses can bring into our minds that creates our reality. But suddenly, this wall is no longer there. And literally any device or any other being, whether it's a dog with its incredible sense of smell, if we connect to its brain, suddenly we could start to smell what that dog smells. Or if a robot has an even more advanced sense of smell, we could start to smell like a world that we never knew existed. We could start to see the world like insects or robotic insects and control them. The possibilities are endless. And it's almost mind-blowing to think about it, because there is so much potential here to expand the boundaries of what it is to be human. The human condition. Right now, we know the human condition simply by the limitations of our body. But suddenly, when our brains are connected to the internet, our bodies are no longer the limitation. Literally, the limitation is anything we can connect to. Any robotic device, any sensor, any other living being that we can connect to, or a device we can manufacture, can expand those limits of our experience, of our understanding of the universe, not just on an intellectual level, but on an experiential level. And this is something, I tell you, I'm really excited about. Like, it can open up worlds to us that we never imagined existing. Open up experiences to us that we could never physically have as human beings, and allow us to become potentially, higher level beings with a much richer and deeper understanding of the universe around us. Brain hackers. There is a dark side to all of this brain-computer interface technology. As we come closer and closer to building devices that allow us in real time to hook our brains up to the internet and to one another and to AIs, what does that mean for our civilization, our society, and us as individuals? First of all, today somebody can steal your identity. They could get your credit card. They could create a phony version of you and take out loans. They can make your life pretty miserable. But as bad as it is, it's a minor inconvenience compared to if somebody hacked your brain and stole your real identity. Imagine our brains are connected to the internet through a brain-computer interface like Elon Musk wants to build. What happens when a hacker, and hackers are pretty good today, pretty sophisticated, hacks through whatever security controls, whatever firewalls we put in there, and gains access to our brain? Just like we can now control a rat's brain without the rat even knowing us, this hacker could potentially take over our brain and make us subservient to the hacker's will. We would do whatever the hacker wants, and we might not even know. Just like the rat doesn't know it's being controlled in experiments today, we might not even know we're being controlled. Our free will would be snatched from us. And our free will is kind of what we define as our humanness, who we are. If we no longer control ourselves, even though we think we're controlling ourselves, then we're nothing more than a puppet for somebody else. And this hacker, who's to safeguard us? Like, are you going to go out and trust a big corporation like Microsoft? Are you going to trust a big corporation like Google, or perhaps one like Facebook with its track record to actually implant a chip in your brain? Do you really trust Elon Musk to protect your identity, in essence, your free will? Is it worth the trade-off for all the power we could gain and all the advantages of brain-computer interfaces? The dangers are just as great. It's a two-edged sword. It's like nuclear weapons, and nuclear power. Nuclear power is an amazing invention. Power, clean energy to power the world, but it's also incredibly destructive. Well, we are coming to the point now where we have to make these decisions. This technology, brain-computer interfaces, are entering the marketplace. They are available on Amazon. Yes, they're very crude. No, they can't hack your brain. You don't have to worry. Far from it. But in laboratories, we're implanting chips into people's minds right now that do have this capability. Now, these are for medical reasons, very medical, people with severe disabilities who are willing to take that risk. But the average person, should the average person take the risk? I don't know the answer to this. What I do know is that we should be very cautious. There are governments out there that may use the back door to our brain to completely control society. Enough people have these brain chips, and perhaps we are mandated to have brain chips. Certain dictatorial governments may say you have to get a brain chip. And as soon as we get them, literally we can be controlled, right? Anything we do that's out of line with what that governing power wants, we would have to comply to without even resisting, because we don't know we're being controlled. Now, most likely, we will put some safeguards against that. But even corporations, I do not necessarily trust corporations to use our minds or the data from our minds, the data it gathers, ethically. Like, how much of us do we want to expose? If a corporation can access our mind with a brain chip, what's to stop it, just like Facebook, from gathering very private information from us and using it to manipulate us? Maybe we aren't controlled directly. Maybe there's no nefarious power out there dictating everything we do. But simply knowing the buttons to press, knowing how our minds work, using advanced AI to figure that out, they could manipulate our lives, everything we believe, everything we do, all of our action. We're already seeing this, how easy it is to manipulate human beings today with our crude, primitive social networks, with our internet in its infancy. But you imagine when we get to advanced brain-computer interfaces decades from now, how simple and how refined this technology will be to control almost every aspect of our lives and manipulate our emotions and our feelings and our understanding and interpretation of the world. So all of this technology has a bright side and a dark side. And we need, as human beings, to grapple with these issues now. Progress is great. Innovation is great. It boosts the economy. But there's a certain line we're going to cross, which we can never come back on. And if we go across this line blindly, without really thinking about the consequences, all of us could pay the price. We could pay the price with handing over our humanity to some other power. It could be a government power. It could be a private corporation. It could be AIs out there. It could be any number of things that we could literally hand it over. And once we hand it over, it may be impossible to get it back. Literally impossible. So I am making this talk to raise awareness of where we are headed and what it means to implant chips in our brain, even though it's the early stages, even though what we're doing now does not have this potential. But in the not too distant future, we will be that line will be coming closer and closer and closer. And if brain-computer interfaces go into mass distribution and people around the world feel like they have to get a brain chip in order to function, literally, you can't function on a job without a brain chip because you can't compete with anybody, because they are exponentially smarter than you, because they are able to access the unlimited processing power in the cloud and storage and information and transact in ways that are like gods, that you without a brain chip can't do. You would feel forced to upgrade just in order to have relevance and be able to maybe perhaps even earn a living and survive in this world. And if you are put in that position, what does it mean? what baggage comes with that? Is that the opening of Pandora's box? Is the opening of our brains directly to the internet the end of it all, going to unleash all the demons? We need to understand this. We need to begin to put safeguards and limits on this now. Corporations, some companies are already chipping people, in the United States and Europe and other countries, with RFID chips and little simple chips that they can use that are really more gimmicks or toys. But brain-computer interface chips are not that. They are not toys. They are actually very potentially dangerous and destructive devices, which offer incredible power, but come with incredible peril. And so we need to start a dialogue now. We need to get the brightest minds in the world now, not necessarily worrying about AI taking over the world and taking over us, but allowing certain groups of humans combined with technology to control the mass of humanity. And what will they do with this power? And what will it mean for the quality of our lives? Maybe we would live, if our brains were hacked, in ignorant bliss, because we literally wouldn't know it's happening, and they would send good feeling endorphins pumping through us. We would feel great, but all the time we are not us. The us that was us, that had any ability to control and make decisions in our life, our own volition, will have been snatched away. We will not suffer, perhaps. Perhaps we'll live in what I call ignorant bliss while we are being controlled. But is that what we want? And I think most of us would answer no. We would rather suffer than live in bliss if it took away our free will. And that is why it is so imperative that we build up the institutions now to protect us against this, and to actually chart humanity, not let our technology just run wild and in whosever hands out there be used in whatever way. There needs to be a balance. Now, I am pro-technology. I am pro-advancement. I really believe our future could be much better than our past, and that we could move towards a very positive outcome. But I'm also really concerned that there may be certain lines coming up that once we cross over, if we go the wrong direction, there is no going back. Heaven or hell? So my question to all of you now is, will our future be heaven or will it be hell? It could be heaven. All of us could be wired together, literally. And it could be an experience somewhat akin to us imagining an afterlife. Like, we are no longer an individual. We are connected with all the souls of humanity. Our brains are all united. We are a single organism. We are connected as one being, just like the visions that many religions have of what it is to die and become the Buddha or God and connect with humanity on a much higher plane of consciousness. That could happen through brain-computer interfaces. That could be our future. Or we could become literally automatons. We could become robots controlled by some master AI or master group of people, organization that takes away our free will and our humanity. These are our choices. This is what we have to grapple with. And honestly, the choice is ours. There is no, I don't believe it is predetermined, either path, or some middle path between the two, which is most likely some bits of hell and some bits of heaven merged together. And it's going to be really messy, and we're going to have to sort it out. But I would like to see us really, on a deep philosophical level, grapple with what it means to connect our brains to the internet and what directions we want to take humanity. What do we need to become? Is it better for us to potentially end war, end suffering, make the human race a much more collaborative, connected entity where all of our pain is shared and where we work together to better one another's life? through these advanced brain-computer interfaces? Or are we exposing ourselves to such great risks that even with this great promise of nirvana, the risks are too high and we just don't want to go there? That is the question I have for you. And now I will end my talk. I hope you enjoyed the talk. If you liked it, you can come to founderspace.com. You can check out our latest events, contact us, and see my latest book, Make Elephants Fly, Surviving a Startup, and The 5 Forces. You can also find me on all the major social networks. Just search for Founderspace.